And welcome YouTube viewers to our YouTube exclusive. I guess we're a glutton for punishment because we're back again for another daily space weather video here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And we've created a slowed down series of images here in 304 angstroms to start things out. Yeah. It's associated with an X-class solar flare, which you'll see right here at the beginning. There's your X-class solar flare that occurred yesterday. We'll show a little more on that. First, an even closer image. How you like them apples? There were a series of coronal mass ejections associated with these flares. So a bunch of flares here, and sort of as we cited yesterday, flares more likely around the limbs of the sun than in the Earth-facing portion. Just spectacular imagery there. Let's take a look at Earth's geospace. Here's Earth's magnetosphere out to about 12 Earth diameters. You see some striations happening here in the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. The scaling you're looking at on this is nanopascals, and it's the last 4 hours, assuming everything's working properly. And it indeed looks like it is. So we did see some gyrations here in the solar wind speed and density and temperature. We'll get to that in a moment. First, ground magnetic perturbations. And you should see some translation into ground magnetic perturbations here. The scaling on this is in nanotesla. Earth's magnetic moment from the ground, since we showed you Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here it is from the ground on our YouTube exclusive video. Like the last video, that's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Nanotesla is magnetic flux density. Next, a measurement of global geomagnetism, the planetary K index, currently at 3. Geomagnetic calm conditions for over the past 24 hours at the moment. And here in the real-time solar wind, you can see these gyrations we were talking about. We saw a variation from 437 to about 480 kilometers per second there, about almost 500. So about a 50 kilometer per second variation happening there in the solar wind speed. Also the density going up and down from about 3.5 protons per cubic centimeter up to about 6.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Also the plasma temperature changing around. So that's consistent with some minor coronal mass ejection strikes, actually. Looks nothing like a coronal hole high-speed stream or anything like that, but we still do see a slightly elevated solar wind speed here. Current conditions are about 450 kilometers per second. That's the velocity. The density about 3.6 protons per cubic centimeter. Quite a diffuse solar wind at the moment. Next, the heliospheric current sheet. Can we see anything rising? Well, I think there may be some activity about to happen in the southern hemisphere. So if we look in the southeast of the sun, that's the most likely place to see a sunspot form at the moment. You can see the North Pole current sheet kind of making its way through here to this area. Earth currently in a South Pole current sheet, shown there in red. Maybe some activity rising in the south, folks. The southeastern portion of the sun. Keep your eye on that. That's my sunspot forecast based on the magnetic data. Here's our GOES magnetometer here over the past 3 days. You see some spiky readings there. Not particularly smooth. There has definitely been some plasma around. And here's the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. Also shows the solar magnetogram. Again, most likely place to see some sunspots forming, folks, is down here in the southeast. Next, we'll move on to coronal holes. Here's our coronal hole line of sight plot. And we did see a minor geomagnetic storm early in the day yesterday, just over 24 hours ago. And yeah, it was caused by that coronal hole that my arrow is pointing at. Otherwise, pretty chill when it comes to coronal holes. We're Seeing a little bit of a coronal hole drought happening here, along with a bit of a downtick in solar activity in general. So sunspot number has dropped. Also, the radio flux has dropped, now only at 120. Although we did see an uptick in flares, certainly. Sort of as I forecasted yesterday. A series of flares coming from these active regions over here, including an X-class flare, which we introed the video with. So not a lot of coronal holes here in view in 193 angstroms at the moment. And let's move on to sunspots. We do have coronal mass ejections to cover as well. We'll give you my opinion of whether or not they're earthly directed. So sunspot number has dropped way down here. Looking at only 2 or 3 named sunspot groups at the moment. And they're fairly simple sunspots, not likely to produce large flares. Although we still could see some large flares coming from this area up here into the northwestern limb. So here's the 1700 angstroms 24-hour video. And yeah, I think we're down to only 2 named sunspot groups, just these 2 groups down here. Once again, if we're going to see any activity happen, I think it's going to be in the southern hemisphere, in the southeast. Most likely spot to see new sunspots. By the way, thanks to our subscribers on YouTube. You know we make all kinds of videos besides space weather. Yesterday we even put up a meteorology segment for some reason. It got a whopping 38 views. Maybe it's because we're putting up too many inconvenient facts on the channel. But for whatever reason, it's quite an interesting platform, let's just say that. So take a moment to press like and subscribe. If you're actually able to see the content, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. I'm not kidding or being facetious when I say that. It's just a crazy, crazy platform. We're also on BitChute. We did put up a space weather video over there yesterday. And today we've decided to show all of the designs available on the Redbubble shop in order of best selling. So we're scrolling up from worst to best selling here. Did you know that HIPAA didn't evaporate in the year 2020? Yeah, HIPAA, it's still a thing. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. It's real. It's all too real. You can find links on our homepage as well as below the video on that. If you're not on Twitter, I don't know. I'm not going to say get on Twitter. Do whatever you want. I just honestly don't really care. I think the censorship is still... Why is it that some people think that there's like a switch that can be pulled to shut off the censorship on Twitter? That is not how algorithms work, folks. That is not how coding works. I used to be a computer scientist. I am a retired computer scientist. And the censorship is not gone. Twitter is not fixed. If you'd like to get on there, make sure you fill out our poll. We've put up a poll here because I want to know if people think Twitter's fixed. So let's see, we've got 14 votes now, so this is a pretty good poll here. 92.9% of the people think Twitter's the same, and I would not divulge whether I agree with that. We've got another 5 days left in that poll, so please go check it out. Twitter.com/smashomash. Let us know what you think. Is Twitter fixed, or is Twitter the same? We also regularly stream live to Twitch. Oh my God, we're up to almost 150 followers. Wow, what a success story over on Twitch. It's just amazing. Oh, noes. Nearly 150 followers. Wow, we are blowing up. We are blowing up like censorship. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. Thanks to Gold and Silver Smash Team members especially. If you want to see all of our videos in one convenient spot, just click on Posts at smashomash.com/SmashTeam. It doesn't require login, although seeing paid content does require login, especially at the Gold and Silver level. And if you want to comment or anything like that, you got to join at the Bronze level. Welcome to the DR Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. You and like 14 other people watching the videos every day. Cheers. You can find links to other social media there. You can donate via PayPal and Patreon still. Again, to find the additional content, like the information about solar flares we put up yesterday, you have to head to Smash Team. and click on posts at smashamash.com. There are the links. I don't know what else to tell you. Those are the links. Those are the facts. We did see some relativistic particles here, none associated with the X-class flare. Things are calming down here and subsiding when it comes to that. And here's this series of flares. The X-class flare had peak flux around 1340 yesterday, and it was quite spectacular. Let's get into it. So here it is in 94 angstroms, one of the best wavelengths to view flares. We slowed that down a little bit. Here it is, again in 15 frames per second, a little zoomed in. And here it is even more slowly at 10 frames per second. Just the hours surrounding that X-class flare. Yowzers. It was just pretty sweet. And we'll let you know about the coronal mass ejection status here just in a moment. We also put up the 10 frames per second imagery in 131 angstroms. We'll let that play through a second time. And what you're looking at there is ionized iron. A different chemical spectra, a different number of electrons than the 94 angstroms. 131 angstroms is actually the hottest temperature that we view through the SDO. How about one last time? Just showing the most spectacular imagery of the closest star on the entire internet. On our daily space weather videos, we've been doing it about 5 years at this point. And since we like people to be oriented, here is a star chart. Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. Jupiter and Venus nearly overlapping at the moment, and the moon rising just behind the sun here. It's a crescent waxing following new moon. Jupiter and Venus nearly overlapping in the morning skies. Next, your planetary forecast. Here's where things are now as Mercury swings back around. Here's where things will be in a week. In 2 weeks, all the planets will be on one side of the sun. So for everybody looking for something to be frightened about, maybe that's oh no, the sun, it's going to throw all the planets out of orbit. Let's be frightened about things that are completely not scary. And let's do coronal mass ejections now. So here's the view from stereo A at Lagrange 5 and from the SOHO-LASCO C3 at Lagrange 1. I've frozen it here at about 2100 hours because it's when we see this somewhat, well, from stereo A's perspective, it looks somewhat earthly directed, as Earth is right off on that line. However, from this perspective, Earth would be behind you. Again, to go back to our diagram, the SOHO-LASCO C3 on the right is at Lagrange 1. The stereo A coronagraph is at Lagrange 5. And that solar flare, that coronal mass ejection rather, is going to miss Earth to the west. So it may look like a halo, but that's because there is other ejecta on the other side of the sun, folks. I don't believe any of that is Earth-directed. If so, it's going to be only a minor strike. So we've seen lots of CMEs here over the past 24 hours. I don't think any of them are going to significantly strike the Earth magnetosphere. So anyway, that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. If you don't like it, let us know in the comments. If you do like it, let us know in the comments. If you want to comment on whatever you like, let us know in the comments. I'm a free speech purist. I won't be censoring you or blocking you or deleting your comments unless you put up spam or something like that. We'll let this play all the way through for you. Before we close out today's YouTube exclusive in-depth daily space weather video, so regardless of what your stance is on such things, we do appreciate you viewing regardless. Thanks for tuning in. May that solar wind be at your back. As I sign off from the Smash News Network least busted name in news.